Welcome to Earthborn Valor. Tonight we bring you a story of courage and fate. When a human reached for an alien's sacred blade to defend her, he awakened an ancient law that would bind him to her forever. His choice changed everything, turning a stranger into a husband and a warrior into a legend. Stay with us to the end, because this tale is filled with suspense, sacrifice, and the kind of twists only humanity can bring to the stars. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful HFY sci-fi stories. The stars above the battlefield burned like cold fires. Smoke drifted through the night sky, glowing red from distant explosions. The ground trembled as alien machines marched across the valley, their iron feet crushing soil and bone alike. He had not wanted war. He had only wanted to trade, to pass quietly through this world, but fate pulled him into a storm. The human stood at the edge of the broken camp, dust on his face, fear in his chest, but a strange fire in his eyes. Around him lay the remnants of tents and broken weapons. He could hear the cries of the wounded, the roar of alien warriors pressing forward. In the center of the chaos, she fought alone. Her blade cut through the night like lightning. The sacred weapon shimmered with an otherworldly glow, every strike leaving sparks in the air. She was not like the others. She was taller, sharper, her armor carved with marks of rank and honor. Her clan called her their shield, their pride, and yet at this moment even she was surrounded. 3 enemy soldiers closed in. Their spears dripped with black venom. She staggered back, her strength waning. The ground around her was littered with fallen allies. She should not have stood alone, but she did. He saw it all. And then he saw her drop. The sacred blade slipped from her hand. It struck the earth with a sharp ring, the sound slicing through the noise of battle. She reached for it, but her arm trembled, blood dripping from her side. The human did not think. He did not plan. His legs carried him forward before reason could stop him. He dove into the dirt, his hand closing around the hilt of the weapon that was never meant for him. The blade seared his skin. It was alive, humming with ancient power, rejecting his touch. His breath caught as heat surged through his veins, pain like fire clawing up his arm. The alien warriors froze for half a heartbeat, eyes widening. No outsider had ever dared touch the sacred weapon. No human had ever survived it, yet he lifted it. The blade sang in his grasp, the glow changing, shifting, as though testing him. His teeth clenched, his muscles screamed, but he raised the weapon high. For that single instant he felt the weight of every eye upon him. And then he struck. The first enemy fell in one blow, his chest cut open by a line of burning light. The second tried to leap back, but the human pressed forward, his strike clashing against spear and splitting it in half. The third turned to run. The human did not chase. He only stood there, panting, the blade still blazing in his hand. The battlefield seemed to pause. She looked at him from where she lay on the ground, eyes wide, lips parted in shock. Her clan's sacred weapon rested in human hands. She should have felt anger. She should have felt rage. Instead, her breath trembled with something else, relief. He reached out to her. She hesitated, then placed her hand in his, letting him pull her to her feet. The glow of the blade reflected in her emerald eyes, casting shadows across her face. Around them, her people began to gather. Warriors who had survived the clash limped closer, bloodied and silent. Their gazes fell on the human, on the weapon, and then on their leader who stood beside him. No words were spoken. But in their culture, no words were needed. The moment was binding. He had touched what no outsider could. He had wielded what no other hand dared to lift. And he had done it to protect her. In the silence that followed, the decision was already made. Whispers rose among them, hushed voices carrying ancient law. He took the blade for her. He bled with her. He is her shield now. The words grew louder, rippling like fire through dry grass. Until at last one voice broke clear. Then his husband, the human, froze. He looked at the faces surrounding him, scarred, fierce, watching him with a mixture of suspicion and awe. He looked at her, standing tall now, her hand still near his, her expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. The war was not over. The enemy still rumbled in the distance, regrouping. Yet in this fragile moment, something greater than battle had been born. He had entered their war as a stranger. But now he stood bound to their leader by a tie older than steel, and in the distance thunder rolled, promising that the true trial had only begun. The night did not rest after the battle. Smoke lingered over the valley, and the earth was scarred with fire. The human stood among warriors who did not know whether to hate him or honor him. The sacred blade still burned faintly in his grip, whispering with a voice no one else could hear. Her people gathered in a circle, their faces sharp under the broken moonlight. They were wounded, weary, yet their eyes were fixed only on him. The word they had spoken, husband, still hung in the air like a command written by fate. He wanted to let go of the blade. He wanted to drop it and walk away, but his hand would not open. The weapon clung to him as though his blood had already bound it. The clan leader, the woman he had defended, stood tall again. She pressed a hand to her wound, her gaze never leaving him. She did not call him husband. She did not deny it either. Instead, she studied him as if searching for the truth of what the blade had seen. A low horn sounded in the distance. The enemy was not finished. Their machines moved again, their shadows rising on the ridges. The warriors of her clan stirred, but their strength was broken. Too many had fallen. Too much blood stained the ground. One of them hissed, pointing at the human. He carries the blade. The blade accepts him. Then he must fight, the crowd murmured. Some nodded. Others frowned. Tradition was older than doubt. The one who lifted the sacred weapon was not free to walk away. He was not only bound to her, he was bound to their war. The human felt the weight of their stares pressing down like stone. He was no soldier. He had not come here for glory or blood, yet when he looked at her standing proud despite the pain, something inside him refused to break. The ground shook again. Enemy shapes advanced, towering metal beasts with glowing spears. Their voices carried like thunder, promising death. She raised her chin, her voice clear. They will not stop until all of us are gone. If you are bound to me, then you are bound to stand. Will you stand, human? The question pierced him deeper than any blade. He looked down at the weapon in his hand, the faint glow now steady, almost calm, as though it waited for his answer. He nodded once. A ripple moved through her clan. Warriors straightened, tired eyes brightening with a spark of hope. She lifted her own blade, reclaimed from the dirt, and stepped forward. The human moved beside her, and for the first time they faced the enemy together. The next clash came like a storm. The enemy surged from the ridge, their machines firing arcs of black fire. The ground split, dust and flames rising high. Her warriors spread out, their cries sharp, defiant. The human felt the sacred blade guide his hand. He swung and light burst forward, cutting through metal as if slicing paper. The power shook him, threatened to tear his muscles apart, but he did not stop. He fought step by step beside her. She struck with grace, her movements swift as lightning, her armor glowing under fire. Yet even she glanced at him with disbelief when his strikes shattered enemy steel. The whispers spread even on the battlefield. The blade has chosen. He is more than husband. He is warrior. Still, the enemy was endless. For every machine cut down, 2 more marched forward. The valley echoed with screams, the smell of burning metal and blood mixing in the night air. A spear slammed into the ground near him, bursting in black flame. The shock threw him down. For a moment the world spun and he thought the blade would finally burn him alive. But a shadow leapt over him, her shadow. She blocked the strike, her armor cracking, her breath ragged. "Do not fall," she growled, pulling him back up. Her eyes blazed not with anger but with something fiercer. Trust. Together they pressed forward. He swung, she struck, and for every enemy they cut down, her warriors followed. A broken army began to rise again, led not by one leader but by 2 bound in battle. The tide shifted. The enemy faltered. Their machines slowed, their formations breaking under the sudden fury of the clan. The human roared as he drove the blade through the chest of the largest beast, its explosion lighting the valley like dawn. When silence finally fell, the battlefield was unrecognizable. Smoke drifted over heaps of burning wreckage. Her warrior stood bloodied, trembling but alive. The human staggered, his chest heaving, the sacred blade still hot in his grip. He had no words left, but her people had plenty. They knelt. One by one, warriors bowed their heads not only to her, but to him. The whispers rose again, louder this time, rolling like thunder across the camp. Husband. Warrior. Chosen. The human felt his throat tighten. He had only wanted to survive. Yet here he stood, no longer a stranger, no longer free. He was bound. To her, to the blade, and to a people who would not release him. She stepped closer, her voice low. meant only for him. You cannot walk away now. The blade has chosen you, and so has fate. He looked into her eyes, saw fire and sorrow both, and knew the truth. His life was no longer his own. And in the shadows beyond the valley, the enemy's true army waited. The war had only begun. The night after the battle was heavy with silence. Fires burned low across the valley, casting long shadows over broken ground. The wounded were gathered, their cries faint under the whisper of wind. And in the center of it all, the human sat with the sacred blade across his knees, staring at its glow as if it were a chain he could not break. He had fought for survival. He had fought to protect her. Yet the whispers of her clan had grown louder, shaping him into something he had never chosen: husband, warrior, chosen. But not all voices welcomed him. From the edges of the camp, a group of warriors watched with hard eyes. Their leader, a scarred man with silver hair braided tight, stepped forward. His voice cut the night like stone scraping steel. "This is wrong. He is not of us. The blade should have burned him to ash. It should never bend to human flesh," the clan murmured, unease stirring. The woman, their leader, rose to her feet. Her hand rested on her own blade, her gaze sharp as fire. "The blade does not bend. It chooses. And it chose him." But the silver-haired warrior spat on the ground. "No outsider can be husband to our shield. No human can lead beside her. He is a thief of fate." The words struck like blows. The human tightened his grip on the weapon, feeling its heat pulse in answer. He did not want leadership. He did not want their law. Yet, the moment he had touched the blade, he had lost the right to refuse. The tension grew until one voice broke it. "Then let him be tested," gasps rippled through the camp. The trial. The ancient law. If the blade truly accepted him, he must survive the ordeal that had broken countless warriors before. The silver-haired man sneered. "Yes, let him face the trial of flames. If he survives, he may stand. If not, the lie ends in ash." The clan turned to her, their leader. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes met the human's, searching, questioning. At last she gave a single nod. "It will be so." The human's chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to protest, but the glow of the sacred blade throbbed like a heartbeat, warning him that choice was gone. Fate had already pulled him forward. That night they led him to the circle of stones. The place was ancient, carved into the earth by generations long before. Torches burned in a wide ring, their flames crackling, shadows twisting. In the center lay black coals that shimmered with strange energy, alive with whispers of power. This was no ordinary fire. It was the flame of judgment, said to burn the soul more than the flesh. The warriors gathered, chanting old words. Their voices rose like a storm, calling the trial to life. The silver-haired man watched with cold satisfaction, certain the fire would destroy the outsider. The human stepped forward, his heart pounding. He looked at the woman, the one he had saved, the one he was now bound to. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes glowed with something deeper than command. A silent promise, or was it sorrow? He entered the circle. The flames leapt high, surrounding him. Heat scorched his skin, smoke filled his lungs. His vision blurred as the whispers grew louder, voices echoing from the fire itself. They spoke in a tongue he could not understand, yet their meaning struck his heart. "Prove yourself. Break or rise." He staggered, pain searing his arms, his chest, his mind. The sacred blade in his hand pulsed, its light clashing with the fire's shadows. He felt his strength failing, the heat eating into his very soul. But then he remembered. The moment he had lifted the blade, the moment he had stood beside her while enemies closed in, the look in her eyes when she pulled him back to his feet. He grit his teeth. His voice tore from his throat in a roar. "I will not break." The blade answered. Light erupted from its core, slicing through the flames. A surge of power rushed into him, not destroying but binding, weaving him to the fire, to the stone, to the people who watched in stunned silence. The coals dimmed. The circle cracked. And when the smoke cleared, the human still stood, the blade burning bright in his grip. The clan gasped. Some fell to their knees. Even the silver-haired warrior stepped back, disbelief shattering his certainty. The woman approached, her voice carrying through the silence. "The trial has spoken. The blade has spoken. He is not outsider. He is bound." The warriors bowed. The chants changed. Now they called him what he feared most: husband, shield, chosen. But in the back of the crowd, the silver-haired man's eyes burned with hatred. His voice was a whisper, yet it carried venom. Chosen or not, he will fall. I will see it done. The human did not hear those words. He only met her gaze. For the first time she stepped closer, her hand brushing his, her voice low. You carry more than a weapon now. You carry us. He felt the truth of it, and it terrified him. In the distance, thunder rolled, not from the sky but from enemy war drums. Their true army was on the march. The trial was over. The real war was coming. The drums of war echoed across the mountains long before the enemy appeared. Each beat shook the ground, a warning that their true strength had finally awakened. The clan stood ready, though their numbers were thin, their wounds still fresh. At the center, the human held the sacred blade, its glow steady, as if waiting for the storm to break. But shadows moved, not only outside the valley. They moved within. The silver-haired warrior watched from the edge of camp, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. His eyes were sharp, his voice a hiss to those closest to him. He survived the trial. But fire can be fooled. He cannot fool blood. If the enemy does not kill him, I will. The whispers of rebellion spread like poison. Some of the clan nodded with doubt, torn between the law of tradition and the sight of a human carrying their future. Others clenched their jaws, unwilling to betray their leader, unwilling to dishonor the trial. The woman, their shield, their leader, sensed it all. She stood before her people, her armor still cracked from battle, her voice steady despite the weight pressing on her. Listen well. The enemy comes with greater fury than before. They will not show mercy, and if we falter now, none of us will see another dawn. We fight together, or we fall together. Her eyes moved across the crowd, lingering for a breath on the silver-haired warrior. Then she looked at the human, the glow of the blade reflecting in her gaze. You fight not as outsider now. You fight as one of us. Remember this, he said nothing. But his grip on the weapon tightened. He had never asked for this role, never sought this burden. Yet when he looked at her, he felt no room for escape. The enemy came at dawn. The sky split with fire as war machines crawled over the ridges, their cannons glowing with black energy. Waves of soldiers poured down the slopes, their armor glistening like obsidian. The earth shook with their march, dust rising into a storm. The human's breath grew heavy. He had survived one battle, survived the trial of flames, but this was no small clash. This was war. She raised her blade. Her voice rang out like a war drum of its own. Hold the line! The clash was chaos. Metal met light. Screams cut through the air. Blood and fire painted the soil. The human swung the sacred blade, each strike tearing through enemy steel, each movement shaking his bones with power he barely understood. He fought beside her, their steps in rhythm, their blades flashing together like storm and lightning. But even as they pressed forward, betrayal stirred. In the chaos, the silver-haired warrior broke formation. He and those loyal to him pulled back, leaving a gap in the defenses. The enemy surged into the opening like a flood. The human turned, his heart freezing as he saw warriors falling, screams rising where the shield wall had broken. He realized too late what had happened. Betrayal had opened the gate. Fall back, she shouted. But the command was drowned by the roar of enemy machines. The human's chest burned. He could not let the line collapse. He leapt into the breach, the sacred blade blazing like a sun. He struck, carving through the first wave, his roar carrying across the battlefield. For a moment the enemy slowed, stunned by the fury of a human wielding light. Her clan rallied behind him, filling the gap, pushing back. But the cost was heavy. Bodies fell all around, blood soaking the earth. Amid the madness, the silver-haired warrior watched with cold eyes. He had hoped the human would die, crushed by the enemy. Instead, he saw something else. The human becoming the very shield he had sworn could not exist. The battle raged until the ground itself cracked under fire. When silence finally came, the valley was no longer a battlefield. It was a grave. Smoke curled from burning machines. Her people stood bloodied, fewer than before, but alive. The human dropped to his knees, the sacred blade still glowing faintly in his hand. His chest heaved, his arms shook, yet his eyes burned with a fire that had not been there before. He had seen death, had felt it pressing close, but he had stood. Her voice broke the silence. You did not fall. None of us would still breathe if not for you. The clan murmured their agreement, voices heavy with awe. For the first time, they did not call him outsider. They called him shield. They called him husband with no doubt. But behind the praise, the poison of betrayal lingered. The silver-haired warrior stood apart, his jaw clenched, his eyes filled with a silent vow. He would not let a human hold their sacred blade forever. He would not let fate be rewritten. And as the clan tended to their wounds, the sound of new war drums rose again from the horizon, louder, closer, promising that the true storm had yet to come. The smoke of battle had not yet cleared when the seeds of division grew. The clan tended to their wounded, their fires dim, their voices hushed. Blood still stained the soil, and the sacred blade still glowed faintly in the human's hand. He sat apart, his chest heavy with exhaustion, his mind burning with questions he could not silence. He had stood for them. He had fought until his body was ready to break. Yet he could feel it, their gazes shifting between awe and doubt. To some he was chosen, to others he was still an intruder, and among them the silver-haired warrior moved like a shadow. His whispers were soft but sharp, slicing into ears like poison. He brings ruin. The blade was not meant for his kind. Every drop of our blood spilled today is his fault. Will you let him sit beside her? Will you let him take what belongs to us? The word spread through the camp like fire beneath ash. Some warriors shook their heads, unwilling to betray the trial, but others clenched their fists, anger clouding reason. That night, as the stars watched cold and distant, the human felt the weight of silence pressing in. He heard footsteps approach. She came, her armor removed, her hair falling loose against her shoulders. The firelight danced across her face, fierce yet weary. "You fight as if you were born to carry the blade," she said quietly. "But strength alone will not hold this clan together. Some already plot against you." "Against us," he looked at her, the blade heavy in his lap. "I never asked for this. I only wanted to survive. Now they call me husband, shield, chosen. I am none of these things." Her gaze softened for the first time, her voice lower. "You are what the blade made you. And, perhaps, what I need you to be." The word struck deeper than any weapon. He wanted to ask what she meant, but her hand brushed the blade and her eyes returned to fire. "Tomorrow they will test us again. Not with flame, but with betrayal. Be ready." Before dawn, the betrayal came. The silver-haired warrior gathered those loyal to him, striking while the camp was still weak. His men stormed the fires, blades drawn, voices shouting for blood. "The human is a curse. He must die before he destroys us all." Chaos erupted. Warriors loyal to her leapt to defend, while others hesitated, torn between tradition and rebellion. The human rose, the sacred blade flashing in the firelight. The clash was not as large as the enemy battles, but it cut deeper. Brother fought brother, sister fought sister. The sound of steel against steel echoed through the night. The silver-haired warrior came for him directly. His strike was fast, fueled by rage. The human blocked, the sacred blade humming as sparks flew. Their eyes locked, one burning with hatred, the other with grim resolve. "You do not belong here," the silver-haired warrior snarled. "You wear a mask of honor, but you are only a thief of destiny." The human's voice was quiet, steady. "I did not take the blade. It came to me. You are not fighting me. You are fighting what your own people believe." Their blades clashed again and again. Sparks lit the dark as fire crackled around them. The human staggered under the warrior's fury, but the sacred blade moved with a will of its own, guiding his strikes, steadying his hand. The fight drew the eyes of the clan. Every clash of steel was a question. Who would decide their future? At last the silver-haired warrior overreached, his blade striking wide. The human stepped inside, the sacred weapon pressed against his chest. The glow burned between them. The camp froze. The silver-haired warrior's chest rose and fell with rage, his eyes refusing to yield. But he saw the truth in the glow. The blade would not allow his victory. The human did not strike. He lowered the weapon, his voice carrying across the camp. "I will not kill one who should be brother. But if you cannot accept me, then you must accept this. Our enemy does not wait while we fight each other. If you want blood, then shed it on the battlefield, not here." The silence broke with her voice. She stepped forward, her presence fierce, her eyes blazing. "He speaks truth. Every moment we waste in hate is a gift to the enemy." Enough. Slowly, blades lowered. Some looked away in shame. Others still seethed with anger, but the clash ended. For now. The silver-haired warrior stepped back, his face carved with fury, his voice low and venomous. "This is not over. The enemy may kill us, but if they do not, I will." He vanished into the shadows, his followers trailing behind. The human's shoulders sagged, his breath ragged. He had survived once more, but the fracture in the clan had not healed. It had only deepened, She came to him, her voice quiet, almost like a whisper. "You could have killed him. Why didn't you?" He looked at the blade. Its glow softer now, like embers instead of fire. "Because if I kill him, I become the very curse they fear. And I am not ready to be their curse." For the first time, her lips curved into something close to a smile. Brief, sharp, but real. "Then you may be stronger than even the blade knows." Before he could answer, the sound returned. War drums, louder, closer, shaking the earth itself. The enemy was coming again, and this time, the full weight of their army would fall. The sky burned red as dawn broke. The sound of war drums rolled across the mountains, heavier than thunder, louder than storm. Dust clouds rose on the horizon, and within them moved the endless march of the enemy. Machines taller than towers, soldiers in black armor without number. Their fury was coming like a flood. The clan stood ready, though their numbers were broken, their wounds unhealed. Some still doubted the human. But none could deny the glow of the sacred blade in his hand. Its light cut through the morning fog, steady and unyielding. She stood beside him, her armor reforged in haste, her eyes sharp as steel. To her people she was still the shield, but beside her now stood the one they called husband, chosen, warrior. Yet in the shadows, betrayal stirred. The silver-haired warrior had not vanished. He had waited, his anger boiling, his hatred sharpened, and now, as the enemy drew closer, he whispered to his followers one last time, "Let the human bleed first. Let the enemy break him. Then we rise again as true heirs." The first clash was apocalyptic. The enemy machines thundered forward, their cannons screaming black fire. The ground shattered, earth splitting under the blast. The human lifted the blade, and its light rose like a shield, splitting fire into sparks. Her clan surged forward, their cries echoing like lightning through storm. Steel clashed. Bodies fell. Blood painted the soil. The human fought at the center, the sacred blade striking with light so fierce it blinded the enemy. He cut through armor, tore through machines, his steps steady though his arms trembled with exhaustion. Each strike cost him, but he did not stop. Beside him she moved like a storm. Her blade spun, her armor cracked but unyielding. Together they became more than leaders. They became the line between survival and death. But the enemy was endless. Wave after wave crashed against them, black fire tearing into their ranks. Warriors fell screaming, the cries of the wounded piercing the roar of war. The clan began to bend under the weight, the shield wall trembling. And then the betrayal struck. The silver-haired warrior and his followers pulled back, abandoning their posts at the flank. The enemy surged into the gap, breaking the line, cutting into the heart of the clan. The human turned, his chest tightening with rage. Not again. He charged into the breach, the blade blazing brighter than ever. He struck with fury, each blow shaking the ground, each cry carrying across the battlefield. He became a wall of light, forcing the enemy back, his body burning with pain but his spirit refusing to fall. Her warriors rallied, filling the line once more. But she saw what the others did not. She saw the cost written in his eyes. The blade was not only guiding him, it was consuming him. He staggered, his breath heavy, his skin pale. The glow of the blade burned through his veins, brighter with each strike, brighter with each heartbeat. She reached for him, her voice sharp. "You cannot hold it forever. The blade will take you." He looked at her, and in his eyes was not fear, but peace. "If it takes me, let it be to save you." The words broke her armor deeper than any strike, but there was no time to answer. The enemy brought forth their greatest weapon, a machine so massive it blotted out the sun, its core glowing with power strong enough to shatter mountains. The clan gasped in terror. Their hope wavered. The human lifted the blade high. Its glow blazed like a second sun. His voice roared across the battlefield. "Then let it end here!" He charged. The ground split beneath his feet as he ran, the enemy's machine firing black fire into his path. The sacred blade absorbed the blast, the light surging through him, tearing his flesh, scorching his veins. Yet he kept running. At the last moment he leapt, the blade striking down into the machine's core. Light exploded. The blast shook the world, fire rising into the sky, the sound like 1,000 storms colliding. The enemy machine shattered, its pieces raining like meteors. The enemy ranks faltered, their cries breaking into fear. When the smoke cleared, the human still stood, barely. The blade glowed faintly in his hand, its light flickering like a dying star. He fell to one knee, his body broken, his breath ragged. She ran to him, dropping her weapon, her hands gripping his shoulders. Her eyes burned, not with command, but with grief. "You fool. You gave everything." He smiled faintly, the blade slipping from his grasp. "No, I gave enough. To see you live." The weapon dimmed, its light fading into silence. The battlefield was quiet except for the sound of the enemy retreating, their will broken, their army shattered. The clan gathered around, their voices low, their eyes filled with awe and sorrow. They saw what he had done. They saw who he had become. She looked at them, her voice breaking yet strong enough to carry. "He was no outsider. He was no curse. He was our shield, our husband, our chosen. Remember him?" The clan bowed their heads. Warriors who had doubted now wept. Even the silver-haired man stood frozen, his hatred cracked, his eyes filled with something he could not name. The human's eyes closed, his last breath soft, his face calm. And in that silence the blade flared once more, not in fire but in gentle light as if to honor him. The war was not over. More battles would come, but his name, his sacrifice would burn in their songs forever.